Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really zeroing in on something lots of English learners find tricky.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Making that jump,
Yeah.
from just understanding English to actually thinking in English.
Ah, yes. That's a big one. Crucial for fluency.
Exactly. And we've been digging into an episode of the English Speak podcast for this. Our mission today is basically to pull out the really practical stuff, the actionable tips that can help you, the listener, start doing that.
Right. Moving those thoughts directly into English, it makes speaking feel so much more, well, natural.
We'll look at why it's sometimes a struggle, but mostly focus on the how-to, how to actually make that mental shift.
Sounds good. It's fascinating, isn't it? How many people can say, read English really well, understand loads, but when they try to speak, it's like there's a pause, a delay.
The translation buffer,
Exactly. Their brain is still working mainly in their native language, so there's this constant translation step happening in the background.
which obviously slows things down and can make things sound a bit clunky sometimes.
Precisely. That's the bottleneck we're talking about. Getting past that translation habit is where the real fluency starts to kick in, thinking directly in English.
Okay, so the good news, according to our source material, is that this isn't some kind of magic power, right? It's trainable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a key takeaway. It's a habit, a mindset you can build. It's not like you're born thinking in English or not.
It's about practice and the right methods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The English Speak podcast really stresses this. With the right techniques applied consistently, anyone can develop this skill. You're essentially rewiring your brain a little.
Building new pathways, yeah. So English becomes the default for thinking, not just something you translate into.
That's the goal.
Okay, let's get practical then. What are some of these techniques? The podcast laid out some clear steps. First up, starting with simple thoughts. What does that look like?
It's about consciously forming really basic sentences in English about what's happening right now.
That's super simple.
Yeah, like I'm listening to this discussion or I'm drinking water. Just noticing your immediate actions or state and putting it into a simple English thought. It sounds almost too simple, maybe.
A little, yeah, but I can see how it starts things off.
It does. It creates that direct link in your mind.
Yeah.
Action, thought, English words. No detour through translation. It's foundational.
Right, turning on that little internal English narrator, which leads nicely to the next step, I guess. Describing your surroundings.
Precisely. You take that internal chatter and you broaden its focus. Look around you.
So instead of just, I'm sitting, it's like, there's a lamp on the desk.
Exactly. Or the wall is white, I see a tree outside. You're connecting English directly to the physical world around you.
Making it tangible, less abstract.
Yes, grounding it in your immediate reality, your sensory input.
And then moving from static things to actions again, but more narratively, like narrating your own life.
Yeah, kind of becoming the commentator for your own daily routine. As you do things, describe them internally in English.
I'm brushing my teeth now. I'm looking for my keys, that sort of thing.
Exactly that. I'm opening the fridge. I'm typing an email. It might feel a bit weird at first,
Ah, yeah, I can imagine.
but it keeps those English mental muscles firing throughout the day. It's active practice woven into your normal life.
Okay, but what happens when you're doing this and you, like, don't know a word or you make a mistake? That fear can be paralyzing.
Ah, that's such a critical point. The podcast really highlights the need to embrace mistakes or maybe reframe them.
How so?
Fluency isn't about perfection, especially not at the beginning. It's about communication, about flow. Getting bogged down worrying about every little error actually stops you from thinking and speaking.
So don't let perfect be the enemy of good, basically.
Pretty much. They used a nice analogy like a river. It flows around rocks and obstacles. It's not always smooth, but it gets where it's going. Your communication can still work even with bumps along the way.
I like that. Takes the pressure off a bit.
Yeah.
And making it less like work seems key too, which is where integrating English into hobbies comes in.
Oh, definitely. This is a great way to make it enjoyable. If you like music, really listen to English songs. Look up lyrics. Sing along.
Or watch movies in English, read books you enjoy.
Exactly. Connect it to things you already love doing. It makes the learning stick because it's tied to positive feelings, not just study.
Makes sense. Now let's circle back to something you mentioned earlier, that voice inside our heads, the inner monologue.
Yes, that constant mental chatter.
How do we consciously switch that over to English more often?
This is where you can really turbocharge the process, I think. Most people's default inner voice is their native language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you make a conscious effort. Instead of thinking the thought in your language and then maybe translating it if you had to speak, try to formulate the original thought in English.
So instead of thinking native language thought for I'm hungry, you just think I'm hungry.
Exactly. Or I wonder what time it is. Or this coffee is good.
Yeah.
It's constant, low-level practice that reinforces thinking directly in English.
And it's not just single words, right? The podcast mentioned thinking in chunks. What's that about?
Ah, yes. Language blocks. This is about moving beyond assembling sentences word by painful word.
Which is what often happens when translating.
Right. Instead, you focus on learning and using common, ready-made phrases, chunks of language that native speakers use all the time.
Like how you doing or what's going on or...
Could you pass the salt? It depends on the situation. Let me think about that. Things like that.
So you learn the whole phrase as one unit.
You got it. It makes your speech flow much better because you're not mentally constructing every single bit. It reduces the mental effort and sounds more natural, more idiomatic.
Okay, another technique they talked about was shadowing. Sounds interesting. How's that work?
Shadowing is where you listen to English audio. Could be this, could be a news report, a video, anything really.
Maybe.
And you repeat what the speaker says almost immediately after them. Like your voice is their shadow.
Oh, okay. Trying to copy everything. Pronunciation, rhythm.
Exactly. The intonation, the melody of the language. It's incredibly powerful for tuning your ear and synchronizing your mouth, ears, and brain.
Wow. Sounds intense.
It can be, but even doing it for short bursts regularly makes a huge difference. Really gets you feeling the rhythm of English.
And speaking of hearing yourself,
Yeah.
self-recording, the podcast recommended that too, even though it might feel awkward.
Huh. Yes, listening back to yourself can be a bit cringy sometimes, can't it?
Definitely.
But it's so valuable. You get objective feedback. You hear the hesitations, the pronunciation points that need work, the rhythm issues, things you just don't notice while you're speaking.
It's like looking in a language mirror.
That's a great way to put it. It shows you what others might be hearing and highlights where to focus your practice.
Now, a lot of people think you have to live in, say, the UK or the US to get fluent. But the podcast pushes back on that, right?
Yeah.
Creating your own English environment.
Absolutely. This is crucial. Even if you're nowhere near an English-speaking country, you can consciously build an English zone in your life.
How?
Like, practically?
Simple things. Change your phone language to English. Change your computer OS. Follow English language accounts on social media.
Immerse yourself digitally.
Exactly. And maybe dedicate specific times like your commute is English podcast time, or the first hour of your evening is English reading time. You're actively surrounding yourself with the language.
Creating your own little immersion bubble.
That's the idea. The more exposure, the more your brain adapts.
And they even suggested bringing friends into it, even friends who speak your native language.
Yeah, which might sound odd, but even short chats or text exchanges in English can really help.
Like setting up an English-only coffee break.
Could be. Or just agreeing to text in English about a certain topic. It adds a social element, makes it less solitary, and provides low-stakes practice for thinking on the spot in English.
Okay, so to pull this together, the podcast offered a kind of sample daily routine. Could you walk us through that?
Sure, it's about weaving these think in English moments throughout the day.
So, morning.
Morning, as you wake up, get ready, narrate it. I'm stretching, I need coffee, it looks sunny today. Simple self-talk.
Midday.
Focus on, say, your lunch. Think about the food in English. This soup is hot. I like this sandwich. Maybe I'll have fruit later.
Evening.
Reflect on your day. Today was busy. I learned something new. I feel tired now.
And then maybe before bed.
Yeah, they suggested maybe saying or just thinking or even quickly writing down like 3 simple sentences in English about your day.
The key being consistency, right?
Yeah.
Doing these little bits regularly.
Absolutely. It's not about hours of study. It's about making these small English thoughts a consistent habit. That's how it becomes more automatic over time.
And this really connects to busting that myth we mentioned that you need to live abroad.
It does. The podcast was clear. Immersion helps, sure, but it's not essential. Consistent, deliberate practice and creating your own English environment. That's way more important.
So people can definitely achieve fluency and start thinking in English from anywhere.
Without a doubt. Loads of people do it through dedicated effort and using strategies just like these.
They also threw in a couple more specific exercises people could try.
Yeah, simple practical things like Take a photo on your phone, whatever, of something near you,
Okay.
and then just describe it out loud in writing, even just mentally. Describe the photo in English.
Gets you producing language about something concrete.
Exactly. Another idea was to pick a theme for the week, maybe food one week, hobbies the next, travel after that, and just consciously try to think about that topic in English whenever it comes up naturally during the week.
Keeps it focused but varied. It sounds like the overall message is also about finding what clicks for you personally.
Very much so. Experiment. Try different things. Maybe visualizing stories while you read helps you. Maybe explaining concepts out loud, even to the cat, helps you solidify things and practice formulating thoughts. Find your own best way.
And through all of this, the big underlying advice seems to be patience.
Oh, absolutely. This shift, learning to think in a new language, it's gradual. It takes time. There will be good days and bad days.
But don't get discouraged.
Exactly. Be kind to yourself. Celebrate the small wins every time you notice yourself thinking in English, even a tiny thought. That's progress. Just keep at it consistently.
Okay, so let's quickly run through those key takeaways again, the strategies from English Speak for thinking in English.
Let's do it.
Start simple, with immediate thoughts. Describe your surroundings. Narrate your actions.
Embrace mistakes, fluency over perfection. Use English in your hobbies.
Right. Consciously use English for your inner monologue. Think in chunks or phrases.
Try shadowing audio. Maybe record yourself speaking, even if it feels weird.
Create that English zone around you. Practice with friends if you can.
And establish some kind of simple daily routine for these English thoughts.
Phew, that's quite a toolkit.
It is. And remember, fluency isn't really a destination you arrive at. It's more like a journey, isn't it?
Yeah, constantly evolving.
So enjoy the process. Appreciate how far you've come. Every single English thought, every sentence, it's a step forward. Keep going.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Now that you've heard all these ideas, what's just one small thing you could try? Like today.
Yeah, what's one easy step?
Maybe just describe your next meal in English. Or narrate the next thing you do for 60 seconds. Give something a try, see how it feels, and keep exploring on your own deep dive into fluency.